Welcome, welcome. Dr. Stephen Hobbs here from the Wealth Movement with the Wellther series. This is number 3 of 5 with, yes, woo, with Gaia Morrissette. And we were having a chat offline before we came back on again. And we were having a bit of an interesting conversation around the word control. And control is something that we've got to take a look at. And I'm going to ask Gaia to define what that means and how it might link to life and business. So let's start there because we had a great conversation. So why don't we just start there?
Okay, so when I use the word control, this is how I define this word when I'm talking, is that it's when we feel the need that we have to control the narrative, the situation, the people around us, all the logistics, that we're so attached to the outcome that we cannot possibly allow any other variables to come into play. And when those variables come into play, we freak out, which then turns us into a control freak, where we start to freak out and we start to micromanage people and we start to our behaviors start to get out of control in trying to control the narrative to keep it in the framework of what our expectation is of that scenario, that experience, that person, whatever it is.
And for me, when we were talking, we were using the word discernment, I have a slight little variation on it because I'm thinking about determining the quality of my experience. So can I control my experience, the quality of my experience? But I know where you're coming from. That's why we had this conversation, is that what you're just sharing is what is so prevalent versus, hang on, if I discern and I live on and I take and pay attention to what's going on here, I can determine the quality of my experience. So folks, what we're doing here is this is why it's a conversation. So any thoughts about that?
So for me, like what you're talking about is like this beautiful being able to respond to how your life looks, right? Which in essence is taking control of yourself in the scenario and how you're going to react, how you're going to behave, what you're going to think, how you're going to deal with what's going on. But so often we don't know how to do that. Like we haven't learned how to be enlightened on that kind of
level. We're not awakened like we talked about in the first one.
Right? We're not awakened. We're like, when we move from that place of control doesn't look like this beautiful thing that we just talked about. It looks like it's ugly. And it's from a place of fear and a place of not feeling safe and a place of insecurity and a place of feeling overwhelmed and out of control within ourselves. So we try to externally control the narrative all around us. And so really to shifting that is to learn to control, discern, to respond, all these words that we're talking about within ourselves. And when we can do that within ourselves, we stop being a control freak of everyone and everything around us.
And that's why the conversation, again, just to help people know, the collaborative conversation is to give that perspective, because perspective in all aspects of our life and our living is so important. Mm-hmm. Right? And another word that sort of comes to mind in here is the word allow, or allowing that which is to come in, or to allow those to come into you. There's something about allowing here.
Allowing is such a beautiful and sexy word, because it's really becomes in line with the word surrendering. Surrendering to the moment, surrendering to all the variables, surrendering to the possibility, which allows us to have whatever is meant to unfold with ease, to unfold with joy, to unfold with fun, like this beautiful unfolding that happens when we stop trying to control everything around us and attached to the outcome of what our expectations are, and we step out of that place, we allow all the beautiful possibilities that as humans we have no understanding of all the beautiful things of how things can show up. We have no idea, right? And so when we get out of the way and we start to just allow it to happen, some of the most powerful connections I've ever made with people have been incredibly with no expectation. Like even my relationship that I've been building with you is a great example of that. I had a tea, somebody said we should meet, we met, I had no expectation of where that would go. All right, now we're having a conversation about filming it, right, as one of the many ways of possibilities. Now if I had gone into that conversation with you with this expectation that you were going to do a bunch of stuff for me, or you having an expectation that I was going to do a bunch of stuff, and then I tried to manipulate you to control this situation so that could happen, or you tried to manipulate me to control that situation happen, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation.
True.
And that's just one little example of where when we try to control and we have attached to the outcome, that it interferes in all the variable possibilities, all the beautiful possibilities of happening.
Well, I went to a presentation a number of years ago, and they used the word surrender and business together. And I have to admit, I hadn't heard that phrase before. And I think what you're bringing up now is this notion of there's an aspect of allow or surrender into or surrender with what's happening. And so any thoughts about surrender?
Oh, I love that word, and it terrifies me all at the same time. Because I'll fully own it, I'm a recovering control freak. And so the concept of surrender is like, oh my God, that's like a complete opposition of what it means to feel safe, right? So if we can just step back for a second about safety, is that the reason why most of us are control freaks is because we needed to learn that skill in order to take our power back, because our power was taken from us at some point, usually when we were little. And so when you understand that, then it starts to be a little bit easier to learn to allow and surrender, because now you're an adult and you're moving from a new narrative and you're moving from a new possibilities, and who you choose to have in your life is who you choose to have in your life. So it's a different space. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk, just to say that, right? So all the control freaks can actually listen to the rest of what I'm going to say and not just shut me off right now. Okay. So surrendering. Okay. So surrendering is it's like getting into a space of ease. And for example, in life and meditation, we surrender to the possibilities. We go to the void and we let go of all expectations. We let go of all of our thoughts. And then we go to this transcendent trance state when we can surrender into that place of letting go. And from a business perspective, when we surrender, we give ourselves the opportunity to start to listen to what our instincts are, our intuition is about things. Because when we're trying to make everything happen, we're not quiet, we're not still, we're not allowing anything. So we're in this frenzied state that we can't actually make and listen to ourselves and quiet enough to listen to ourselves, which is what is the best decision for this, for me, for the business, for this product, whatever it is, because we're in this frenzied state. When we step back into this quiet, still surrender, we can listen, and then we can make decisions based on that data, both internal data and external data, without expectation. And we tend to make the better choices from that place. So from a business perspective, surrendering and letting go and allowing things to happen is a powerful, powerful business model to embrace for success, for abundance, for productivity, for profit, all of these things. The key thing is that you need to get out of the way and allow and surrender.
Well, your imagery of frenzy,
Yeah.
and that kind of vibration, it's kind of hard to then connect to the sensuality of the decision.
Yeah.
Because your decision can be informed by, is there a red flag going up in terms of, this doesn't taste, no, I'm not hearing this the way I want to hear this. I don't see this happening the way, because that can actually help you with your decision. So being frenzied gets in the way of that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
Because you can't drop in. You can't drop into yourself in your senses, your awareness, all of the intuitiveness. Like, you can't drop into any of those places when you're in this frenzied state of like, what is going on all around you. You can't make a decision. Well, people make decisions all the time from that place, but those decisions typically fall apart, and they tend to be, again, create more chaos, more crisis, more drama, which creates more of a feeling of a need to be in control. So then you're now more of a control. It's a vicious cycle.
Yes.
It's like it goes, it goes, it goes, and goes, and you can be in that place to a place of bankruptcy in your business because if you would just stop for a moment and trust, there's the other magic word that goes with surrender, and trusted that everything was going to work out, and allow everything to show up the way it needed to be, you wouldn't be in that frenzied state, and you wouldn't be in that controlled free state, and you wouldn't be in the crisis, and you wouldn't be in the drama, and it wouldn't cost you a lot of money.
And you would be in service.
And you would be in service, and you would be in that wonderful space of everything lining up exactly where it's meant to do. And you just surrendering to the process of however that's going to unfold.
Yeah, you can be in a place of service where you know the ducks are lined up with the whales and the sloths and the kangaroos and the dragonflies and all that, and that there's this movement that's taking place. And I'm all for a word like movement and profitability. I believe that those are really key words in life and in business. Again, when you unpack those words and what they actually mean. But let's just drop. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, just to bring that into for a second, that when we make decisions, there needs to be a stillness enough for us to make the decision to then take the action. And I think that's the key part of where surrender shows up in our businesses or in life, is that it's in that moment of stillness and quiet and allowing that we can actually have the space, the energy, and the time to make the discerning decision that's best going to serve me, the world, the universe, whatever it is that you're doing. And then you can take your action. And those steps are moving from, not from a controlled place, but from this beautiful gift of understanding.
The notion of service for the greater good.
Yeah.
For doing well.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that links to, if we go so far as to say, the greater good and being in service links to this notion of knowing what your sole purpose is and expressing that, both in life and in business. Fair?
Oh, yeah. And when you're in an alignment with your soul's purpose, everything is easy. Like, that is where life gets really fun and really easy. When we step out of alignment, whether that's from the surrendering, the trusting, the controlling, the frenzy, the what our ego purpose is versus what our soul's purpose is, then that's when everything goes to crap. Falls apart, and it just goes crap.
Well, we have to be aware of our ego. I've always gotten that, but we have to understand what our ego is, the G to C.
Yeah.
Right. And to be able to play with that aspect of it. right? Because if you're playing with that and your sole purpose, then again, people know that I play with words. So soul, normally S-O-U-L, but there's also a soul purpose of S-O-L-E in terms of walking in the direction, in the movement that you're going to take, right? There's an importance here as well. And I think that the ideas that you're sharing with us are so important because a lot of times they get put back, they get put to the side. And if we weave these ideas together, there's so much more that can happen for us in our lives. And I think that's what we're attempting to get to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When we weave all of these concepts that we've been having a conversation with, it allows the best version of you in life and in business to thrive. It's like that. Instead of this suffering and misery and working hard and, chaos and drama and crisis place, we shift from that space into this wonderful space of thriving, of life being easy, of profit, of health, of wellness. Like all of these things are moving in that different. If you want to get to that place, you want to play in that sandbox, you really need to allow yourself to let go of all of that old stuff to step into this space. And the key is the letting go, the surrendering, and allowing life to be. Not making, like that's the thing I always say to people is like, when you're speaking, do you say I make this happen, or did you say I allowed this to happen? Did you force it to happen, or did you receive it? Right? It's like stepping into that different frequency. One is like I'm making it, the other is it's just happening.
Yeah, and therein is an important element is that the words that you use, not necessarily I'm talking about you, Gaia, but you, the listeners, are so important to what's going to unfold for you in your life. And I'll use another word to infold into you. This infold that's taking place. And that's why I so appreciate the conversation. I know that we're running a parallel, life and business and sexual energy and life energy and allowing and serving. And there's lots and lots of different ways in which that language then is part of you that may be different than the person that you're sitting beside in the meeting. Right? And that's the perspective. And that's why I was so looking forward to having this conversation, is just to unfold some of this and see where it goes and what happens. And it's what I call an eco-creation. It's beyond co-creation. It's an eco-creation for the world. Now, having said that, there's something that's really important here. Do you have an activity about, letting go, about things that are sort of been hindering in you in your life and moving into the world of the helping? Just a simple little activity, because it's one thing to say it, but is there something that you can do that can start to deal with some of those kind of things? Just a very simple little activity.
So I have a fun activity is to discern whether or not you're stepping into, I like to call batshit crazy town. Like, are you downtown batshit crazy land? You are, where it's just all in your head. There's no rationale. There's like, this is not serving you on any level. You are just in this downtown crazy town, right? Is I always like to just say, shake it off. And actually just shake it off, right? And wiggle, right? And then if that doesn't work because like your brain's like really attached to, no, I need to be right, even though it's not serving you or anybody else around you, you're still attached. Then what I like to do is laugh for a minute. There's two different ways that you can do this. You either have an on-call space something that you find so funny that no matter how you're feeling, you will always laugh at it. That's one way of doing it. The other is that I actually I do this cackle laugh that every time I hear myself do it, it just makes me laugh even harder. So then I start laughing even harder, and then usually I start to snort because I'm laughing so hard, and then I laugh at myself for snorting, right? And so it goes on for like this whole minute. And what it does is it resets your nervous system completely in that moment, which allows you to release. So because there's two things that are happening when we're attached to something. There's the thought process that's happening, and there's the emotions that are happening, and then there's the biochemical responses to those emotions that are happening in your body. And so when you do the laughter part of it, it changes your biochemical response in your body so that you can now choose to shift into releasing, oh, that was batshit crazy. Now I can really shake it off, and now it's done. Right? There's nothing to do with it. All right. And then I can step into that new choice, whatever that is that I want at that moment. Right. So those are really those are game changers. Like, they're simple, but they're game changers. The other thing is your subconscious mind does not want you to go like this. It doesn't want you to go like this, because going like this goes against everything that's miserable and grumpy and control freak and chaos and crisis. Because when you move your body like this, you're all like happy and giggly and silly. And so it also basically makes this switch within you that allows you to lean in, to let go of the old and to lean into this new way of being.
So I guess there's nothing better than a good laughing wiggle or a good wiggling laugh.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I do this bum wiggle. Like, for me, it's like this bum wiggle. Like, if I'm really grumpy, it's really hard to stay grumpy while I'm shaking my booty. Like, it's almost impossible to be like, I hate the world. It's just so hard to do. It's so hard to be like miserable. Like, you have to be really, even when you're really committed, it's hard to stay committed when you're wiggling your booty.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So start wiggling more and laughing more.
So I think there's probably an upcoming video going to come out called the Laughing Wiggle Meditation, or the Wiggling Laughter Yoga Poses, right? Or something like that.
Well, I wrote a book called Stop, Drop, and Wiggle that's based on these concepts. So, 7 easy steps to happiness. And those 2 steps that I was just talking about, which is the laughter and the wiggle part, is a huge way of our shifting from that suffering to being able to make the new choices that we want to make.
Well, that's great. So I will put that as a link in the end of this video. So if you'd
Fantastic.
like to grab that book, that'd be great. So we're at our time. I think we're going to go out with a laughing wiggle here.
Okay, ready?
Woohoo! Yeah. So with that, folks, take care. We'll catch you on number 4 of 5.
Bye.